And Spain has called on Israel to clarify the details surrounding the death of the 7 aid workers. This comes as reports emerge in Spanish media that Spain will recognize Palestinian statehood by July. Here's Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez on a trip to Jordan.
They died doing what this NGO has been devoted to for years, to deliver food in devastated areas. I hope and I demand that the Israeli government clears up the circumstances of this brutal attack that has taken the lives of 7 aid workers who were simply offering help.
Our correspondent Jack Perrick has the latest from Brussels. Jack, tell us more about what we heard there from the Spanish Prime Minister.
Well, I think it's really interesting. What we're seeing now is European leaders like Pedro Sanchez coming out. They are clearly unhappy and they want the answers from the Israeli government. We did hear already from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but he's not asking for answers. He said he expects and demands the answers. The man who started the World Central Kitchen, the aid organization whose convoy was hit and killed these 7 aid workers, is owned or was started by a Spanish-American chef called Jose Andres. And I think what we're seeing now is, we've long heard European and Western leaders supporting Israel's right to defend itself, and has continued to say that since the October the 7th attack. But now what we're seeing is perhaps the patience starting to wear a little bit thin. I think that's my read on how Pedro Sanchez delivered that press conference when he arrived in Jordan at a refugee camp for Palestinians on the outskirts of Amman.
Now, Pedro Sanchez has also said that he wants Spain to recognize Palestinian statehood this year. What exactly would that mean?
Yeah, that's right. Ahead of his visit to the Middle East, he gave an informal discussion to the Spanish press, but it's widely reported by most of the big Spanish newspapers and agencies and broadcasters that he said to them that he would expect that Spain would recognize the state of Palestine by July at the latest. There is a pressure, social pressure, political pressure within Spain for the Spanish government to do that. It would also be in the run-up to the European Parliament elections, which are coming in June, at which Pedro Sanchez will hope to do well, and we'll see this as something of a campaign issue. It's interesting, this one, because as a European Union country, the EU broadly supports the 2-state solution between Israel and a state of Palestine, but it doesn't have a position for each of the 27 EU countries to recognise the state of Palestine unilaterally. So different countries are taking different positions on this.
Do you think different EU countries could individually follow suit in recognizing the Palestinian state?
I think so. There's a big discussion about this. Some of them already do. Some countries like Bulgaria and Czechia and Cyprus and Hungary, Poland, they actually recognised the state of Palestine before they joined the European Union. Sweden has done so since. But there are many countries that are starting to consider it. We know that Belgium is considering it, Ireland and Malta and Slovenia, Spain probably being the loudest country in the official recognition and starting diplomatic relations with a state of Palestine. But the big question is, and the big diplomatic and economic power obviously comes from Germany, which is unlikely to do so unless there was clear sort of acceptance for that by the Israelis. And at the moment, it doesn't look like Germany would do so. France potentially as well could, but at the moment, like we say, some of those countries, and I think what we will see is Spain and those other countries I mentioned push ahead to try and recognise the state of a state of Palestine by the summer.
Jack, thank you very much. That is DW's correspondent, Jack Perrick.